Good morning. This is Talking Devils. I'm Wayne Barton, joined by Manchester United legend Paul Parker and Dave Murphy. If you're watching us live on YouTube, feel free to like, subscribe, get your comments and questions in. If you're watching live on YouTube or on social media or on Twitter, if you're listening back on the audio podcast, if you can give us a positive review on the platform you're listening on and subscribe as well, we would very much appreciate that. Paul, how are you doing today?
I'm fine, thank you very much, Wayne. I was actually yesterday at Chelsea v Leicester,
Oh
which
yeah,
was in the end turned into I think there's been three cracking quarterfinals, and I was at one of them yesterday, and I actually ended up watching the game inside. For anyone who knows it, Chelsea have got a hotel inside their ground, and they've got the hotel, and then next to it they've got a bar, which is called Frankie's. So I ended up sitting in there with loads of Chelsea fans all around me, wondering what the hell I was doing in there. But I got invited to the game by a good friend, and we sat in there, and a hell of a place to watch a game of football. The atmosphere is brilliant, TVs everywhere. I don't normally go in those places, and then I suddenly found out just by sitting there, and then when and it was more. I knew before, but once that final goal went in, how much Chelsea fans do not like Liverpool. It was absolutely incredible, to be perfectly honest.
yeah.
It was. I just never you just felt it when that went in. The noise and everything it just went mad in there when that went in.
Yeah. They had a rivalry. I can remember a couple of tasty cup ties with them back in the 90s, and maybe something started there. Morning, Davo. How are you doing?
I mean, recovering. We had St. Patrick's Day yesterday, obviously, and then I watched 29 minutes of the parade, and then I walked up to my parents' house, which was a minute away, and then the afternoon just got better and better. And I think today now I'm paying a little bit but bank holiday, so no work, all good.
Yeah, talking about sitting and watching games with your friends. By the way, Steve says yesterday wrote me off. Yep, us as well. Finding my voice for this. Dan, it was his birthday this weekend. Obviously, one of the main guys behind the podcast and the website. He says, "Morning, guys. What a way to win that! Like the Sheffield Wednesday home game in April '93." Yeah, but I remember because it was Dan's birthday the weekend 10 years ago. 10 years ago this weekend, we played Liverpool at home, and it was his birthday, and it was the Moyes game where Liverpool won 3-0, and they got like 90 penalties. And I remember like just thinking, I don't know if I told him this, but I was like, oh God, like our twist of fate that we're playing Liverpool again. Please, God, don't make it be as bad as it was then. And obviously, we've ended up with this like mad result. Robbie, he says day off here, thank God. Yeah, he's with Dave on that little side of the river, water, not river. Morning, fellas. What a beautiful Monday. Yeah, don't watch the show for my grasp of geography.
Or even they do.
Or even my football knowledge, but let's get into it anyway. United 4, Liverpool 3. 80 minutes on the clock when he made the last changes inside that period of time. I'm thinking, how am I going to talk about this game for this podcast? And my summary was this. And I thought it was a really good summary. At the time, I felt it was a perfect summary of this Manchester United team. When this Manchester United team were 1 goal up, they play like they're 3 goals up. They play with complacency and overconfidence. And when this Manchester United team are 1 goal down, they play like they're 3 goals down, like they're never going to get back into the game. And that was a logical thought pattern, I thought, really good basis to start off the podcast. And then what we saw after the 80th minute was anything but logical. And to be honest, it is Manchester United. It is why we all love football. The summary of like the players and everything like that will come. We'll talk about that in a minute. But I just want to say, like, Paul, start off with you. Obviously, the atmosphere that you watched in as well. What a game of football. That's got to be one of the greatest ever games in football history, but Manchester United history as well. It was an epic moment to remember, wasn't it?
It was. I mean, we have to say. I mean, it will be. It would take a long time to beat it because it was the two biggest clubs in the country, to be perfectly honest, and everybody was watching that game. Everybody had an idea in their mind what the result was going to be. No one actually saw that coming. No one saw that kind of game coming. That 7 goals in that game, I didn't. Yeah, I could have said maybe it could have come from one way, how things have been prior, but to go and do what they done to get something was absolutely incredible. I haven't sat down and watched a game like that excuse me, I'm a bit froggy, in a long time. I never expected to get anywhere near that. Yes, you have to be perfectly honest and say there was good fortune in the second half. Good fortune, and that first half had to end when it ended because it wasn't looking good at all. That first half, the way it was tailing off, but the way it just rejuvenated itself to go and get what happened at the end, and then I don't know if I don't know if the media will be talking about Manchester United's young players. Be interesting how they talk about that, to be perfectly honest. But I doubt they will, because it doesn't fit the narrative. But we have to say it was down to that really. The young players who showed a bit of commitment. I've jumped the gun a bit, but Ahmed, I was just sitting there. Again, I'm sitting. Right, the TV must have been 2 inches from me. But from my head, by the way, I was virtually watching it like that. And I watched him, and it was like watching Forrest Gump run when he was just trying to get to Ganache. It was absolutely, and when you see people, you go, he's faking that. He's not running properly. He's trying to make out. It was like he was working so hard to get there. Yeah. And I'm so pleased that he went and scored. And the ending, when he took his shirt off, I went, oh no, but I can understand why he's taking his shirt off, because he must be so frustrated at watching everyone else getting minutes and he hasn't been given it. And I've been saying it so many times with yourself, Wayne, and with yourself, Dave, about he deserves time on the pitch, because every time he comes on, he looks the best player. You put him with Casemiro and Mainoo about being composed with the ball. He's just one. He's one. He makes it a trio when you've got 3 of them who are very composed with the ball. The rest of them, you don't know what you're going to get sometimes. But with him, you know what you're getting, and I'm so pleased that he's gone and done what he's done. But it's just a shame, really, that I don't know if he knew it, but he must have forgotten that he had a card already.
Yeah, I know. And the yellow that they picked up, the first one, for blocking the free kick, it was just like, oh God. Having said that, there are a couple of other challenges in there. The referee, he was so one-sided at one point. I was dreading it going to a penalty shootout because I thought he'd give all 10 for Liverpool. But that's my funny joke of the podcast. Dave, like I said, we're going to talk about the game itself, obviously, but just on the actual fact of it being one of the greatest ever. What do you reckon to that? Do you think that that's a fair comment?
I mean, it's hard to put into words what we witnessed yesterday. And Paul said there in the very beginning, I think most of us had a result in our head, and it definitely wasn't 4-3. He said that 7 goals were scored, and it probably crossed people's minds that 7 goals was going to go to one team. I wasn't overly expecting much from United yesterday. But what a game! I mean, I spoke to one of our friends earlier on, and he was saying that it's the best game he's ever been to at Old Trafford, and it'll go on in his memory for years. So he puts that up there with Barca in '83, which I think is probably the 2 standout games ever in the history of Old Trafford, which says a lot, But boy, what a game! I'm still not sure how to filter it. I'm being honest with you. This is why I'm like, for once, a little bit speechless. But I know we're going to get into a few of the players who performed, but there was so many good performances there yesterday. There really was. And I remember going back to an earlier podcast where after the Brentford game, where we had hoped that that last minute winner was going to kick us on. This has to, because of the opponents. If this doesn't kick us on, nothing will. We gotta take this result. We gotta take. Ten Hag has to take a few things out of this game, and no more caution to the wind. just go for it. That's what Manchester United's all about. And I don't know, when it was coming up to the 81st, 82nd minute and they start bringing on the subs, I think it just bring everyone on. It's a cup tie. It doesn't matter. You either lose or you win. That's it. You don't lose any points for it. You're either in or out. So just throw everyone on. And in the end, he did. I mean,
he did.
It was, I don't know, I've been to some many great Manchester United games, and I've seen, obviously some fantastic days and nights. But yesterday was it's tough to put into words. It was phenomenal. It was unreal. Really was.
It's generational in terms of, like, we go back and you think of 99 when we won against Liverpool in the last minute, the 2 goals there. It's just crazy to think of. I'm going to run through some of the match events and then I'll come to Paul to give you like sort of deeper thoughts on the game. So it'll be a bit of a shorter podcast today, but we can only talk about this game. But we'll try and get through it. And there's a lot of you watching, big audience for us today, over 250 of you watching right now. So if you get your comments in and stuff like that, we'll try and get to as many as we can. Not 250, I don't think, but maybe 20. T2 says, morning, gents. That was absolutely bonkers. What a classic. Another momentum killing break now. Maybe. Well, let's not be negative about it right now. Robbie says, I went through every emotion possible yesterday. Brings home why we love United and our parents before us. We do things differently. Yeah. John 8 says, I genuinely thought we'd win before the game. I was saying to my brother, I had a feeling we would win. I'm not sure I was that confident, but you do hope, you do believe. Look, go through the goals. McTominay scores, McAllister equalises, Salah drops players and taps into an empty net, which was infuriating at the time. Like Paul said, they were getting a bit of a head of steam, and you felt like they were just going to keep scoring goals before half time. We didn't make that many changes like straight away. It wasn't like we were making changes to change anything in the second half, and everything seemed to be similar. Then he started to gamble. Anthony equalises right at the end with the right foot. I think the fact that he takes it on his right cut everyone out. You get to extra time. I'm pleading with him at that time, shouting like he can't hear me. Put Anthony at left back. How mad is it in this world? You're watching a game of football at Manchester United. You've got Bruno Fernandes playing centre back. You're praying for him to move Anthony to left back just for balance, just so you can have Bruno and Anthony in defence. I mean, what on earth? Anyway, Elliott then scores a deflected shot. And Onana had played well, but there were 2 deflected efforts that had just gone past him. And then Rashford, having missed the chance at the end of normal time, what a chance. And now then you it's like in 99 when they disallowed Keane's goal in the first semi-final. You're kind of glad that it didn't happen because then Giggs scores the greatest goal of all time. And then you get the drama of what we went on to see. Rashford scores the equaliser to make it 3-3. And then you've got that epic moment. I mean, like Paul's already said about Diallo and the deserving nature of that. I mean, big performances all over the pitch, Paul. Mainoo was exceptional until he ran himself into the ground. Wan-Bissaka was exceptional until he ran himself into the ground. Dalot probably had one of his best games for the club. One of McTominay's better games. I mean, there were a couple of times he let himself down with a pass, but generally his use of the ball was great. Bruno, I mean, you can't say he was brilliant, but he went. And, I'm still a bit upset that he claimed that foul in the build-up to one of their goals. But he went back into defence and played there for over 40 minutes, which was unbelievable. Obviously, I gave a few of my highlights there, Paul. You've already talked about Diallo's goal. What was good for you in the game?
Good fortune and the fact that they stuck in there, to be perfectly honest. It's taken 2 games in Liverpool to really to get the best out of it. You look at the game at Anfield, a 0-0. I said that was the most disciplined performance I've seen in a long time, and I haven't seen one since. But this one wasn't as disciplined. But the fact of they stayed in the game, and they needed to score, and players come up. They made opportunities still when everything was going against them. To be perfectly honest, running out of steam, running out of what people looked at, what was coming off the bench, and it was kind of hope. But in fact, it improved it on an offensive basis. What come off the bench, to be perfectly honest, in that sense, and with so many players running out of steam and then having to go to the bench and have to do it And as mentioned earlier by Dave, it was a case of nothing to lose. I think people would have accepted that. People, you know, if it was to go against them, people would have accepted it from what they got out of it, because there couldn't have been too many, hardly any, who expected to win that game. And especially the latter part of that first half, there was people who were getting worried, and maybe there might have been a few who were getting pins and needles in their feet and thinking, I need to walk here because it could be embarrassing because the way it was going. But he got it turned around. Players lifted themselves and done it. And I always say, and it might sound now as kind of I'm kind of trying to kill it, but the next game is even more important now. A lot of individuals, they've got to go and deliver that same work ethic. That's all you got to do. That's what people want now. Now until the end of the season, anything you're feeling, because there's only a few games to go through it. Prove yourself. Go through it. Don't just sit back and tell yourself there's something wrong with you. Go out there and play through it. It can't be that bad unless someone's wrapped it up with something. Go through and show something that you want to get out of it. You look at it at the moment. The fourth spot isn't closed off with Spurs getting beaten, Villa only taking a point. So still, anything momentum's important. You know, you talk about consistency. You talk about now the manager. He might need continuity to get through, to make sure that they get over the line. And if that's pushing as hard as possible to go fourth, if it's pushing as hard as possible to get past a very, very difficult semi-final. I've seen Coventry quite a few times this season. And Mark Robbins has got a very good side. He's got good individuals who are very much a team. And if anybody watched that game, it'd be an interesting one, which was a better game. The Wolves, Coventry Wolves or Manchester United Liverpool, because that was really good, that game.
Yeah.
It was really good. Same length of time. But at the moment, it's the most important thing is that Ten Hag has got to another final in his second season.
A very quick one, Paul, before I ask Dave, on Kobbie Mainoo. Obviously, he was good against City a couple of weeks ago. He was one of the shining lights. But yesterday was different class from it, wasn't it? I mean, to sort of boss in the way that he was, sort of take authority and run through players and stuff like that, and not just his use of the ball, considering that he didn't have any protection there. He was the holding midfielder and he was bossing it in that way. That was a statement performance from him.
Oh, without that, you look for, normally I always say, and I've said it many times, it was said when I was at United that, you look for your big players in big games. And I think that doesn't matter what level of football you do. The players that you look up to is when you're in that same team, you know or you expect them to be around in the big games. You don't generally expect your teenager to be one of them, but that happens. It's happened to United in a lot with the likes of the Wayne Rooneys and the Ryan Giggs and the Paul Scholes.
Yeah.
And it's happening with him now. I'm just again waiting for Sky to really talk about this young player at Manchester United and what he's doing. But again, I don't think they will, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah. Dave, come on then. Give your summary of the sort of deeper parts of it. I mean, it's so breathless. It's difficult to pick a point out of there. And, you had waves of, like I said, Liverpool had their moments and then United just went crazy. Like that sort of, you want to see more organisation. You want to see something that looks a bit more methodical. But then there is that element of like, well, you've got 40 minutes of absolute chaos, which you also buy into a lot with United. You kind of want that. And this United team, you're not going to really invest in the idea that they've got a lot of authority because we've been there a long time. We've seen these players and we know that they don't have it. But to then give us what they did give us is the best what we can ask for. So when you see it work out like that, it's just magic, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about this after the game yesterday. I'm trying to not look at it through a biased tinted window. I don't think there's any club in the world that produces last-minute winners, extra-time winners like Manchester United do. I mean, we have so many of them down the years. And yesterday, I think just aside from 99, it's in the top two. 99 for me was the one that will never be beaten because of the occasion, because of everything that was around it. But yesterday, I think is the second greatest last minute winning game I've ever witnessed of any team. But I mean, the players yesterday that stuck out for me were, Dallo was absolutely phenomenal again. I mean, he's really come on in the last 6 to 8 weeks, and yesterday I think was his best game he's ever played for United, in my opinion. I can't fault Onana. Like 2 deflections, what's he supposed to do with those? Nothing. But what I still can't get my head around is the winning goal. Here's a player that hasn't been in the team, has been on the bench, and at times you're thinking, why is he bringing him on and not Ahmed? We need a bit of pace, we need a bit of width, and that's got to be soul crushing as a player to be sitting there looking at other players getting their chance and they're not producing anything. But then to have the composure to do that in the 121 minute at Old Trafford against your biggest rivals, the biggest rivalry in British football. Yeah. To do that in the last, what we thought was the last kick of the game, but obviously, the referee and the FA and Sky had other ideas. But to score that the way he did, it was just unbelievable. I honestly, when he scored it, and there was a second of nothing in my head, and some people may say that happens a lot, but over longer periods. But there was a second of what the. Yeah. And I was watching it, like I said earlier, I was watching it in my parents' house. My brother and my younger brother is a Liverpool supporter. I think by the time I'd finished the celebrations, he'd already left. It's hard to put into words yesterday. There were so many great performances. And as you said earlier on, Paul said earlier on, the next game is, we got to kick on. We really have to. I know there's an international break, which may help, but we got to kick on. But so many big performances. Yes, I thought Harry Maguire played very well when he came on. You spoke about Kobbie Mainoo. I don't know. How good is this guy going to be? It's rare that you can see a player at such a young age and go, I'm 100% certain that guy is going to be world class. I mean, yesterday, without, like you said, the protection of Casemiro or anyone, he ran that whole midfield. There was times where he was just gliding past people as if they weren't there. An absolutely phenomenal player. He really is. He's up there. He's going to be one of the best, in my honest opinion. I really believe that. What an exceptional player. We need to go out in the summer and help him to take him to that next level. And that's the scary part. I believe he can get even better. But yesterday was probably his best game, and he was absolutely phenomenal. He was.
Yeah. Paul, I agree with Paul's sort of reticence on letting him part of the sort of England nonsense. But, oh, God, him and Bellingham together. Oh, you just imagine how incredible that's going to be. Even now it would be incredible. But in 2 years' time or something like that, when they've got that maturity of international experience, because there are other great players, obviously, but you look at them and you think those two players could be the. I don't know what's happening on with Paul there, but someone likes Paul's contributions, I guess. But why don't we get the fireworks? Anyway, once they've got that experience there. Once they get that experience behind them at international level, you could think it looks like they're the best. They look like they'll be the best two midfielders in the world, really. The unbelievable performance from Mainoo yesterday, and it's one of those things where you don't want to sort of peak too soon with it. You don't want to be saying things beyond his capabilities. But when he's played the way that he's played in the last sort of 6 weeks, you think there is no ceiling with him, so you can just go wild and talk about it in that way. You don't feel like you're running away with it in the way that you might have done with Januzaj or even Garnacho in a way. Garnacho was brilliant yesterday. He was so. It came out later that his brother said that he'd been training with a hamstring all week. So to run at that pace in the last minute, the timing of that pass. I mean, I've criticised him on this podcast, and Paul, we've all talked about his timing and like his greed sometimes, but yesterday he had it spot on, and hopefully that's a kick on for him as well, because you need moments like that. The Ahmad thing, I'm still 50-50 because I like him and I think he's got qualities that we don't have. But then you think maybe Anthony's moment could be a moment for him, unlikely as it seems at this moment in time. You think, is it a moment that kicks them on? Or, like, it's fitting that we're talking about Mark Robbins and we're talking about like maybe Makeda, that's their moment. Without wanting to be too disrespectful, I would like to pour like water on the fire and calm it out or anything. I don't mean that, because I want them to go on. I want, all of them to go on and have brilliant careers. But sometimes you think, well, maybe that is what it is. I mean, the person that it has a bigger repercussion for is the manager. His whole ethos yesterday was bravery at that last sort of, he threw everything at it, but then to stay with it, because he could have brought on Cambola in injury time, in extra time, and I thought he was going to do at one point to give us more numbers in defence, but he still kept going for the winner, even as crazy as it looked for that half an hour in extra time. There was no point where he went, no, I'm going to stop this. Like, I'm going to give all 70,000 of your heart attacks. So thanks for that, Eric. And we got him, but we got the biggest thing at the end. United ended up with Dalot and Maguire on the pitch as the only two defenders. We've seen him go with Bruno at centre-back before, maybe even for a couple of games when we've been chasing a winner or something. I've had a bit of a running joke, Paul, on Twitter, that every goal in this cup run has been Ten Hag's Mark Robbins moment. But yesterday might well be, in terms of like getting all the crowd back on side and knowing that there's something there, not necessarily in strategy, because it wasn't there, but in feeling, in momentum, which is just as important, because we did see when the players came back, like Martinez and Casemiro, you did start to see the return of strategy. If you get feeling and momentum, and if it took him all the way to the FA Cup, we are talking about a potentially career-defining moment, aren't we, yesterday?
We are, and the amount of times that you have said that, Wayne, about it being a Mark Robbins moment, at some point it's going to come true for you, isn't it? So you keep shouting it, and then someone's going to agree with you. I suppose that's the way to look at it, really. There it is. Finally, Wayne has got that moment. There you are. It could be. I mean, again, you see people, everyone out there are still trying, everything that goes with a manager going through a situation, they try identify a situation which was good for Sir Alex that might change their side of things as well, and I don't think he really needs that. The help that he needs is the opportunity to be in the same job next season and given the opportunity to get what he wants. That's all he wants, really. I think I said it I said it before the weekend, I'll say it now, is that he should be managing the team regardless of what happens in that semi-final. But if it wasn't to go his way, then again, people would jump on him again. And that's the position he is in. People are going to be jumping all over him every time he loses a game of football. The next game is maybe more important now because everyone has gone there and they can't wait, a lot of them, to get him when he's down there as well. And that's the position he's in. No one wants him there. I'm sure there's people within the new regime that's coming on the football side who don't want him there. They want their own person there because it's a friends kind of thing that goes on. It's the way football works. It's how in any industry, how it works. If you take over, you want the people you know, and you want to do people favours to give them a chance in that position. And that's what's happening with him. And he knows what's going on. They can't wait to give his job away to someone else. We keep reading about it all the time, and all he can do is try and win as many games as possible. And I think that's what he's trying to do. But even more so now, it means so much to him every time. And I think you saw that yesterday, and you saw relief to go and get that big win against one of the top sides. He needed that because they kept bringing it up all the time. He's gone and got it. Forget about how he's gone and done it, but he's gone and done it, and that can never be taken away from him. In 20, 30 years' time, no one's going to be talking about performance, just going to be the scoreline. And then we're going to see maybe they might actually now, the media company, which is mostly on TV, might take away that Liverpool v Newcastle game at Anfield where Kevin Keegan flops over. They might start showing this, the biggest two teams in the country, which in theory is more relevant and content-wise better than that Newcastle one. So that might be showing now. So that's maybe one good thing. But Ten Hag is a person I feel really, really, really pleased for. I mean, he put a tie on as well. I was desperate really to get into the TV set, straighten it up and pull it up a bit. But still, the thought was there to wear a tie. He'd done something completely different. No polo neck, no big baggy jacket. He'd done something different, while Klopp still looked an old man in a hat.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
The old man.
Mike Perry says a Mark Robins moment against Mark Robins' team, poetic, historic. I mean, Dave, if the script's going that way, then it was coming up with the Mark Hughes last second equaliser in the semi-final. It's a thing, isn't it? I mean, you yourself this season, you've gone on a bit of a roller coaster with Ten Hag, to at one point thinking that he was going to walk, like he could theoretically walk because of how difficult things were, to then thinking he was a dead man walking because of the way that things were. And now, obviously, there's an unknown period, the sort of 8 weeks towards the end of the season, but it really could redefine him again.
Yeah, I mean, I think most of us have gone on a roller coaster ride with the manager over the past year, anyway. Since we won the League Cup, some of our performances have been baffling. Some of the things that he's done have been, beyond baffling. But I do honestly believe, I think he deserves a full year, a full season with the correct setup. And we're starting to see and hear, and we all knew that it was a bit of a shit show in the background, but I don't think any of us knew how bad it really was. I didn't anyway. And Ollie, his interview there a few weeks ago, kind of gave us an insight to how bad it was. And now it seems to be that we're starting to put the right things in place, the right people in place, football people that know, people that know that winning on the pitch means winning off the pitch. The previous regime just assumed that winning off the pitch is all that matters. As long as the revenue's going up, nothing else really matters. I think Ten Hag deserves a full season with the right structure in the background to help him. Get him some players that he really wanted this summer. Get him the players from the A list rather than the backup list. And that's no criticism to some of the players he's brought in. It's just that I believe that some of the players he's brought in were second choice in his list. But he definitely deserves a full year of backing. And then we just go from there. We see how that pans out, because yes, there's been times where I've had my doubts about him. And there's even more times when I think he's had his doubts about us. And I've made that comment before that don't be surprised if he walks, because he has a reputation to keep, an absolute mess of a club. And he's probably thinking to himself, why am I going to destroy the rest of my career, hanging around here? Absolutely delighted from yesterday. But in typical, Ten Hag, in typical kind of Dutch fashion, they just come out and start talking about the next game. He came out right away and said, Coventry's going to be a very dangerous team. He's instantly thinking that this is no walkover, and I don't believe it will be. Coventry have 0 to lose. They're going to be playing at Wembley against the famous Manchester United. This is going to be a tough game. They're not doing too bad in the Championship, which I honestly believe is one of the toughest leagues in the world. To get out of.
They've just kicked on in the league, Dave, as well. They was having a patch, and they've just kicked on again. So
I think they're 8th or something in the league. Yeah. So, and it's Mark Robins, and it's going to be a massive occasion, and like I said, these players have nothing to lose, and it's a cup final, it's a semi-final. Anything can happen. It really can. Yeah. It's gonna be a, and I'm trying to articulate this in the right way. It's going to be difficult for us because we don't really know Coventry. We know Chelsea, we know City, we know what to expect. That may be easier to plan against than Coventry. They show that they never give up. They just had their Mark Robins moment, really, didn't they, against Wolves? And Wolves are a tough nut to crack, and beat them at home. So, I'm happy.
They beat us. They beat them in exactly the same way that we beat them, didn't they? Wolves.
But I'm
Yeah.
delighted for Ten Hag. I really am. Yeah, I've had a bit of a roller coaster with him, and I'm always a guy that backs the manager. With the exception of David Moyes, when it got to the point where it was like, what, he doesn't even know what he's doing. I do hope we I do believe we'll give Ten Hag a full year of Ineos. He deserves that. And someone made a comment on Twitter the other day, which fitted this perfectly. They were like, if we were to sack Ten Hag now, we would go after the Ten Hag that was at Ajax, because he fits all the right boxes. He ticks all the right boxes. So to me, that's like, you know what, that just clicked to me to go, he deserves at least one more year with a good structure behind him. So
Yeah, that was me who told you that. I was in person with you. I didn't read it on Twitter. Yeah, it was. I sometimes I come out with good things, Dave. It's so rare that it's stuck in your brain. That's what it was. It don't look confused.
Yeah.
It definitely happened. I remember saying that.
Oh no, it happened all right.
All right. Well, that's it for this week, guys. Thank you for watching. Over 500 of you in the end watching us, which is crazy. It's the biggest ever stream that we've had. So really appreciate you tuning in. We'll be back in a couple of weeks to talk about the Brentford game and to preview an home game against Liverpool. I mean, not wonder what could happen in that one. Hope it's half as eventful, but I'll take a scruffy last minute winner by Diallo again. You get the feeling that it's going to be a bit of a wild end to the season, but we wouldn't have it any other way, would we? Anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, guys, and we will be back in a fortnight. Take care.